The drawback is when you work in too many fields at the same time, you cannot be a real expert in all of the field while you are working in. And you have to admit this. There is no problem. You have to be at ease with that. You said, okay, I'm running 20 projects in 20 different disciplines. So I'm not really good in any kind of this project and in any kind of these disciplines. But at the same time, it enables you to achieve something that other people don't achieve when they are just focused on the subject, is to make connection. And to make connection mean connection in your research. But also, and I come to your question, make connection between peoples.
Are you working in research, trying to do the best science you can?
Are you a team leader, a research assistant, postdoc, PhD student, or any other type of scientist?
Are you looking for a place where you can sit, relax, and listen to inspiring people?
Well, we have good news for you. You've just found what you're looking for.
Hi everybody, my name is Renaud
and I am Jonathan Weitzman.
Welcome to the Lonely Pipette,
helping scientists
do better science.
My name is Christophe Lavelle. I work on biophysics and epigenetics at the National Museum of Natural History in Paris, and I feel quite curious to share my tips with the Lonely Pipette.
Thanks, Christophe. So Christophe Lavelle did his PhD in molecular biophysics in Ariel Prunel's lab at the Université Pierre-Marie Curie in Paris, followed by a postdoc with Laure Sabatier at the French Atomic Energy Commission, the CEA. He was recruited by the chemistry department of the CNRS, and in 2010, he became a group leader at the National Museum of Natural History in Paris. His team works on nuclear architecture, chromatin dynamics, and genome regulation. But Christophe is also an expert on cooking, gastronomy, and food science. He takes an interdisciplinary approach, combining his love of science and cooking. Christophe is equally at ease teaching epigenetics or culinary science, and he publishes actively in both fields. His books include The Handbook of Molecular Gastronomy and Je mange donc je suis, I eat, therefore I am. He has received awards from the Académie Culinaire de France for his writing, and Christophe is also an active science communicator, teacher, and musician. Christophe, thanks for coming to share your tips with the Lonely Pipette.
Thanks to you.
So Christophe, we always start like our scientists in the podcast are superheroes. For that, we have an origin story question. So can you tell us how you decided to become a scientist?
Well, it's happened quite smoothly, I would say. As a kid, I was, I guess, like every one of us, quite curious about everything. And I had that crazy dream of knowing everything about everything. And I just spent my time reading every kind of books I could read. But I have no clear idea of what I could do with that. And indeed, I started rather thinking I should become an engineer. I was fascinated about planes, for instance. I said, it might be a quite exciting job to build planes or build kind of big machines. And I started doing what we call the class prépa, so which means maths sup, maths B, and typically to become engineer. But then during this years in class prépa, I started to change my mind and think about rather doing some theoretical research. And so I quit indeed this class prépa. I said it was too much engineer style for me. It was too much applied knowledge and science and too scholar, I would say. And I really wanted to be more free to explore every kind of subject I would like to explore. And so I moved to university and was quite happy with that, because right from the beginning I said it's totally different environment. And so I go on with physics indeed. I did my master degree in Orsay University, near from Paris. And at the end of this master degree, I had this kind of frustration being I don't know, quite good in physics and in mathematics, because I loved also mathematics, but totally ignorant in biology, for instance. And so this state of mind I had as a kid, I wanted to know everything about everything, that came again and said, okay, now I know physics, but I don't know anything about biology, which is not acceptable. And that's why I decided to do a PhD in biology. And at that time, of course, when you decide to do a PhD, it's because clearly you know that you want to become a theatre, and that was pretty clear. But only at that time it was really clear for me. And starting from when I really started my PhD and started to do a real research job, I became totally convinced that it was what I want to do. And then I had to, as everyone, just work hard for this, and that's it.
And was there any moment during your career where you thought you'd leave? It wasn't for you?
Leave science, that's happened to me every day, I should say. Because I love science, but as I said, and as you said, Jonathan, I also love cooking, I love music, and the fact is, it's sometimes hard, or I should say always hard, to do all of this at the same time. And that's true that sometimes I said maybe I should quit and just come back to music or come back to everything. That's a kind of usually, a short time during the day. And as always, science is, the good thing with science is it's opened the door of so many things. And when I think about music, I said, okay, I love music, but also I love the idea that with science, I can better understand music.
Yeah.
It's the same for cooking. I love cooking, but with science, that's a perfect opportunity to better understand cooking and better cook. And so I think I will keep with the science for a long time.
So this is the secret recipe of how you kept going during all the times. Can be also, it's knowing that you can inject science. If you stay in science, you can inject it everywhere.
And the opposite way is working, which means every kind of subject I would like to dig into, I know that science would help me to dig into it. So whatever, it might be neurophysiology or it might be chemistry. I know that there is some disciplines and usually many disciplines that together help me to better understand every kind of activity. It might be sport also. I love different kind of sport, and science has many things to say about nutrition, about movement, about physics, many things to understand. That's fascinating.
So you trained as a physicist, then as a chemist, then as a cook, and you obviously you see them all connected. Where does this interdisciplinary approach? Where does it come from? Can you?
I think it comes from this always unsatisfactory spirit, which means each time I start to try to understand something, I notice that there is some knowledge I'm lacking or some disciplines I'm lacking to really understand the whole stuff, the whole piece. And that was true for my main subject, which was, as you said, DNA and chromatin and epigenetics. And so right from the beginning, I had decided to in my dream, at least, be able to address these issues as a physicist or as a biologist, and that's exactly how I came to gastronomy, to cooking, and noticing that to really understand what happens when you cook means you have to understand the chemistry of the components, the physics of the textures, the physiology of the taste, and that's why also I said, oh, that's a good thing, because in my studies and in my as a kid and as a student, I used to work on biology and physics and chemistry, and that's exactly what I need to understand cooking. And what happened is that at the beginning, it was really two different activities for me. There was the serious science I did in the lab, which was about epigenetics, and that's why the CNRS recruited me. And at the same time, I would say it was not hidden part because it was official, but at least it was mainly about teaching. And so in 2000, when I was finishing my PhD, at the same time, I started to build a new course in Pierre-Marie Curie University, which is a Sorbonne University now. And it was a course entirely dedicated to cooking. and it was for students in biochemistry. And that's how things started, I would say, regarding the cooking part. I mean, regarding the kind of official work in the cooking part, because of course I'm cooking every day at home, but it's kind of just domestic activity. But then in 2000, so it was 20 years ago, I really started to use cooking in my teaching, to teach science, to teach physics, to teach biology. And at that time, the professional schools, what we call lycée hôtelier, became aware of this activity and came to me and said, "Oh, we heard you in a conference, and we saw some document on the web on some things you are writing for your students, and this is exactly what we need for our cooking students. We need someone to be able at the same time to know about science and obviously to know about cooking, and maybe you could do the same course, the same lessons, of course, to adapt a little bit language and be less scientific and more culinaristic for our professional students, but it would be very good for us to have you to explain the food and to explain the process." And then that's how I moved to both activities. So in the lab, mainly epigenetics, but in the university course, it was mainly about cooking.
So you have this sort of schizophrenia that you managed to find a way to make them both work and make them both work professionally, right? It's not, so I cook, but it's a hobby. For you, they're both part of your academic profession.
Yes,
right?
It's professional, but what helped me not to become completely schizophrenic, I don't know how you say it, is that in my head, the fundamental research still was connected only with DNA, epigenetics, and it might be connected also with cancer and nutrition, but it's still epigenetics. And the cooking part, in my head, it was clear that it was a teaching part. I had students in the university, but that was not fundamental research for me. That was mainly communication, writing books for everyone, or for students, or for professional students. So that helped me to make the separation between the fundamental research and the teaching. But now things have changed, because since 3 or 4 years, in fact, to try not to really become crazy about this, I built a new team in the museum dedicated to microbiology. And in this team, there is still epigenetics, genetics, and about yeast and bacteria, but applied to drink. So to kefir, which is a fermented drink.
Awesome.
So only since 3 years now, I can say that my lab activity, my research, my fundamental research, at least, and after that at last, is also connected to food and drink and beverage. So now I made the connection. So now it's more, it's easier for me.
So I have created a class that is at the intersection between art and science, which I know is something that you're interested in. So I can see in the culinary school, there's an obvious advantage for the students to understand something about the chemistry and the biochemistry behind food, cooking and preparing food. But I have a question the other way around. What do you think that science students can get from understanding how the kitchen works? And I give you an example. So in Imperial College, the chemistry department created a new first year class, which is called Chemistry in the Kitchen, which is about cooking as a way of learning science, because it's practical skills, organizational skills, and it's like a lab. It's like a lab, but I guess you can eat it at the end. So how do you think cooking is useful for a science student, independently of the fact that they might learn how to cook?
It's useful in many ways, and that indeed we are quite, there is more and more this kind of culinary teaching in the university, and I have many colleagues doing this in Stanford, in Harvard, in Columbia, then I know, in Oxford or in Dublin. And all of this experience are indeed described in the handbook of molecular gastronomy that you quoted at the beginning. And because we are quite a few physicists and chemists doing this kind of building this kind of courses. And why we do this is, I think, at least on my side, it's because I wanted to test the ability of the students to tackle a very concrete subject or experience or phenomena, which means why we decided to do this for the third year biochemistry students, and we said, okay, they are at the end of their license, and so they should know quite well about biochemistry, and so how will they react to a very concrete problem, which say, okay, I'm making a jam, or I'm making a chocolate mousse, or I'm cooking pasta. It's the simplest thing you can imagine. Yeah. And I said, okay, you as biochemical students, how do you understand this? And how can you use your knowledge to help me understand and to explain me what happened with the starch, what happened with the pectins in the jam, what happens, why the egg white is making bubbles, and what is the magic trick, and what is important in the egg white that enables you to make bubbles and to make this foam, and why it doesn't work with other kind of viscous liquid. And it was really a kind of way to, I should almost say, to check if the teaching, if the former teaching was good and efficient. And if the students are just totally unable to explain this kind of simple phenomena, we should quite criticize ourselves and say there is something wrong. I mean, if after 3 years studying biochemistry, you have no idea of why an egg white is making some foam and why starch is changing structure, it's something wrong in the teaching. Because then I would tell the citizens, you are a very formal knowledge, but you cannot apply it to your everyday life. And I have this idea that a good scientific teaching should enable you to tackle your environment and to better understand what happened around you and not just what happened in the textbook. That's what the idea.
What about the exploration of creativity?
That's the second part, and I would say in that way it's the other way around, which means usually it's when you dig into science, you might have new ideas to test in the kitchen. You heard about any kind of polysaccharides that has this kind of properties and things like that, and you say, oh, this is chemistically interesting, but am I able to find an application in the kitchen with that stuff? And that's really how molecular quizzing is working. When we talk about molecular quizzing, it's really the interaction between scientists and chef. And usually what happens for all the chef who works with scientists is usually the chef has a technical problem or an idea, a fancy idea. Say, oh, I would like to make a sorbet that doesn't melt when if I eat it. If I eat with heat. And so what can I do? And I knocked the door of my colleague, chemist at the university, and said, have you an idea? And maybe my colleague will say, you want the sorbet not to melt with the heat. This is not possible because physically, if you eat the sorbet, it will melt. But maybe there is a trick. You can use a polysaccharide that will make a gel, and then even if a thin layer around your sorbet is melting, it won't flow because it will be trapped in a gel, so you won't notice that it will flow. And so I can create this recipe. You can use alcohol, make a huge flame and put it on your sorbet, and then the customer will say, wow, this is a fire, this is nice, and then the sorbet is still here because there is a trick that the chemist told me, and this is exactly how Aston Blumenthal, for instance, create this flaming sorbet. This is one of his signature dish. It's just this kind of interaction, and or the same for a guy like Andoni Luis Aduriz, 2-star Michelin chef in San Sebastian, and he created a big foam. It was really the idea of the chef. The chef, foam is quite popular in the kitchen because you can sell air. And you can very expensive.
I know that.
Yeah, that's good. So you use, every chef is making a lot of foam. You use sea foam, you use sucroester, you use any kind of interactive. You build big shampoo, and then you have plates with big shampoo. It's very fancy. The customers are taking pictures of the plates and put it on Instagram. Say, wow, it's amazing. There is a big plate with nothing in it, and and so this chef, and I love Underneath Without Worries, is really an extraordinary chef, and he wanted to do something different. And then he said, okay, everyone is making this kind of shampoo, this kind of air with little bubble. Okay, I would like the same with big bubble. It's just an artistic idea. There is no justification. I just want big bubbles. And it took about 1 year, I think, for him to really come to the right recipe that enables him to indeed make big bubbles, and it has to be sufficiently stable in order to assemble the dish. Put it in front of the customers, waiting the customers is taking pictures of it, send the pictures on Instagram, and then start to eat the plate. But it has to be very stable. And so he had to use a lot of ingredients. He used xanthine and carrageenan and egg white and starch, and I don't remind exactly, but there is a formulation, a whole formulation, just in order to have big bubbles. And this was achieved thanks to his connection with the Mondragon University and physicists and chemists helping and working on foam and complex system and complex matters. And that's it. And then you have the recipe. So that's really this kind of interaction that I like.
So my dad is a cook teacher. He's a I don't know if I can say a cook chef. I don't know. Maybe he will listen to it and he will tell me, I don't know. So why I'm bringing this personal history of mine is because when I was in the lab, I was always wondering and discussing with my dad about the day-to-day work, lab work, human management, everything like that. So we were thinking, which your experience in cooking and lab work, how does these two worlds influence each other? Did you bring something from cooking back to your lab as, I don't know, mentoring, tips?
That's hard to say because, again, I never conducted any kind of research in this in this cooking field. So I have PhD in my lab working on kefir and epigenetics, but no one working on really cooking stuff. And that's, I would say, more generally, that's a kind of a problem, a cultural problem, even in France, when we are so proud about gastronomy. We are so proud about our history, about the wine and the product and the cooking and the recipe and so on. And still, today in 2022, this is not considered as a serious subject. We are talking about molecular gastronomy, and the fact is there is much more molecular gastronomy research and books abroad than in France. And the same for the chef. I have many people coming to me and saying, where can I find a molecular cooking restaurant? I said, there is no in France. You don't have. You can go abroad, you can go in Greece, you can go in Canada, you can go in UK, in US, in Spain, but in France, no. And there is the same for the studies. I have many students having a master's degree and saying, I heard about your work and it looks amazing. I would like to do a PhD with you and work on cooking. And I say, I cannot. First, because in the lab, we are not equipped to do any kind of research in cooking. And even if I want, that won't be a good idea for you, because when you got your PhD in a cooking field, I mean, you won't find in the job. There is no one in France, in the CNRS or in CERN or any kind of university that will say, that's great, you know about cooking science, so we love it, and just come in the lab. It does not exist. This is not serious. So that's why everyone I know that today, as a scientist, work, I would say, in the kitchen, just started with an official, serious academic subject that said, okay, this epigenetics, yeah, that's fine. Epigenetics is good. That's interesting. That's serious. And for me, that's a problem, because it would be it would be really great if we could encourage clever students and enthusiastic students really wanted to do something new and really trying to understand what happened when you cook, which is indeed a very serious subject. And at least it should be considered arts. And the fact is, it's too early, I would say, for this. We are not ready for that.
We should create a module together, a master's module on teaching. So, but to extend Renaud's question, so there's no direct impact on the research in your lab.
No.
But as you said, the way kitchens are run, the way chefs train, the way people collaborate, the way people prepare, has that impacted the way you run your team?
I'm not sure, because there is still there is a really mentoring tradition which is very, very strong in the kitchen, which means every cook has a kind of, when you learn as a kid, when you learn how to cook, you really learn to reproduce the recipe, to reproduce the technical tips, and so you are really trying to apply some protocols, which is what you can do in the lab. But usually we ask students in science to be able to change protocol, to adapt protocol, to to be quite I don't know how to say, quite
out of the box, or
yes, out of the box, and also be able to really have a critical view, on what we are supposed to say.
And in the kitchen, you can't do that.
And in the kitchen, from a traditional point of view, you are not encouraged to do this. You are encouraged to work the way it has always worked, except I would say since a few years, I would say, with this molecular gastronomy coming and people becoming more and more aware about the this change of mind. And indeed, students today are also encouraged to better understand what they do. Not in every schools, but mainly there is two. We have back pro and back techno in the kitchen. And for instance, the back techno program at the national level was changed something like 10 years ago. And when you read about the official text of the government, there is much more science and much more encouragement to that these students should really understand what they are doing, create new recipes, invent new techniques, understand the physics and chemistry. And this is quite good. This was 10 years ago, this reform. And so it goes in the right direction, I would say. But there is, from the profession, there is still this idea that this is not a good thing, that, some chef in the restaurant, they said, I don't want to have people in my kitchen thinking about what they're doing. I just want, I want people to do.
So they really taught to copy the master.
Yes, they are.
Because it's ironic. You would think it was the other way around, but I'm just thinking. Imagine that your PhD student came to you and said, "Look, I managed to repeat the experiment you published 5 years ago."
Exactly.
You would be really disappointed.
Exactly. That's why it's totally different world. Exactly.
That's funny. That's really
funny. Have you ever brought together students from culinary school and students from genetics?
No, but I brought
we're gonna do a project together, Christophe.
We should. Because I brought together many different students, like art students in perfume, or art students in painting, with students in culinary schools. And so it's always connection to art and but yes, I did with Stanford, a colleague running a culinary teaching in Stanford, and he brought his students in France, and I made the connection, and I bring his students to my cooking students, and my cooking students prepare a whole meal and kind of molecular meal with lots of liquid nitrogen and things that looks like quite scientific. And these students from Stanford, we were all cellular biology students, I think, participate to this discussion and meal, and but we do just one shot during one day. But yes, probably we can do something more.
We're gonna do it.
Yeah.
So I did a program with with artists and choreographers called Dance Your PhD, where we had PhD students learning to express themselves. And I always wanted to run a module called Bake Your PhD, where we would have express yourself through. So we're going to do it together.
Sure.
So maybe we will solve the question by doing this. Is there are all molecular biologists good at cooking? That's the question.
Surely not. Surely not. And I don't know why. I think scientific students are not better and not worse in cooking. It's just something totally different, and it's just something you consider separately. And but the fact is, it can. I mean, you don't always make the connection between your job and your domestic activity. That's the same for nutrition. I know many, for instance, think about medicine students. Said, oh, you are learning about health and things like that, you should eat quite well. And usually it's not at all the case.
Maybe Christophe, people need to separate. Maybe they need to have a hobby and a
yes,
work.
I guess. And
like you did at the beginning.
Yes.
But then you merge it. Maybe it's a long path to merge it. Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you have a mentoring practice that you keep from previous mentors or maybe cooking mentors?
No, because I unfortunately I should say that maybe I'm not a good mentor. And that's not about being a modest or thing like that. It's that usually I have many students and I'm quite clear with them when they come to me and say, I would like to work with you because, the subject is exciting and things like that. And I say, okay, but you have to know that you have to be quite independent with me because I'm answering your question as much as I can do. But I'm not often at the lab. I'm doing many things, teaching a lot, lots of conference, book, different subjects, working on 10 projects at the same time. And yes, I'm quite clear. I said to all my students know that they have to be quite independent. They have a place to work. They have someone they can call night and days if they have questions. But they have really, I won't give them some protocols, some tricks, some already digested stuff, and I just want them to do the life.
But maybe that's good mentoring.
Yeah, because they are not copying you in that way.
I don't know because as a student, that's the way I wanted to work, and that's the way I worked indeed, and I was really quite doing my stuff, and even sometimes my advisor said, "What are you doing? I don't know. You with you don't give me any news since weeks." And no, that's okay. That's fine. I'm doing. I will show you after. And so always this kind of free mind and independent spirits that I think. I mean that's the way I used to work. So that's the way I want my students to work. Be quite independent, and then just sometimes tell me what they are doing, of course. And I'm more in the idea of providing them an environment in which they can do what they want. And if they want to change the subject, if they want to say, okay, you recruit me to do this, but I have another idea, then okay, that's fine. Just work on what you want to work. And at least, as long as you work, it's perfect for me. It's good. I'm happy with that. And so I don't know if it is good or bad mentoring. It's the way I cannot do anything different than that. It's just the way I used to work myself, and so.
And how do you encourage them to take interdisciplinary approaches?
Well, that's a bit cheating because I don't have really to encourage them, because when I recruit them, all the announcements I do and the advertisement is clear that they have to have this interdisciplinary approach. So the students that came to me, usually are already this interdisciplinary mind. I don't have to encourage them. They come because they are good in chemistry, but they want to do they want to tackle a subject in which there is some sociology. Or the other way around. The last incident I had came from sociology, but said, I would like to know more about chemistry. And I said, that's fine, just go, we will find something to do together. And so usually that's really, the students they're coming to me are already, they know, and they want to have this interdisciplinary approach. So I don't have to encourage them for it. They already have this spirit in mind.
Since the beginning of this episode, we talk about art, and we have seen now that you're deeply also committed to mixing art and science. So why is that important for you? Why do you spend so much time on it?
I mean, it's important for me because I had never been able to choose. That's, I don't know if this is a big default, but the fact is choosing is a nightmare for me. So it was a nightmare to choose between cooking and music and science. And then doing science, it was a nightmare to choose between physics or chemistry or biology or sociology or anthropology. And it is always a nightmare to choose because when you choose, you have to get rid of something. You have to, and you have to convince yourself that you will just abandon something. And that's really hard. So that's why I always try to maintain activity in art and activity in sport and in science and in everything, because I don't want to be able to choose, to be obliged to choose.
But how have you chosen your research projects? I mean, I understand completely, but in the end, you have to choose, yeah?
Yes, in the end, you have to choose. And that's, just for the story, it was indeed quite one of the worst summer I had. It was between the end of my master degree and starting my PhD. Because when you end your master degree, you have to apply to different jobs. I mean, I had the financement to do a PhD. Then I have to choose what kind of PhD I want to do. And I applied at different PhD opportunities, and I was received at almost all of them. And there was one opportunity, as you said, with Ariel Prunel, working on nucleosome and DNA and things like that. And there was another one at the IRCAM. IRCAM is the Institut de Recherche on Music. Music is the biggest institute we have doing research on music. It was founded by Pierre Boulez. And it's really a place where you can really, I mean, of course, we have many labs working on music, like anthropology or acoustic or things like that. But at the IRCAM, it's really the artistic part that is studied. So we have people you have jazzmen, you have classical composers, and working with scientists. And I have to choose. At that time, I had to choose. And I spent 1 month saying, should I go to nucleosome or should I go to jazz music? And at that time, as you said, no choice. I mean, no choice. I had to choose. And so I chose nucleosome because
it's the jazz of biology.
It's the jazz of biology, yes. Or let's say at that time, I figured out I was, as I said, really totally unaware of everything related to biology. And I said, okay, maybe I will just do 3 years biology during my PhD, and then I can do music again, and maybe I will go again to music science after that. But first, I would like to know better about biology, and then we'll see. And what happened, and then when you start to dig into a subject, usually you are trapped in the subject. And of course, at the end of my PhD, having spent 3 years working on DNA, I wanted to do more. I said, this is really interesting, this stuff. So I still a couple of years, and then I will change. And then 10 years after, still working on DNA. And but maybe
one day, jazz.
Maybe one day, maybe in 5 years, when I finish with the QC and microbiology, I said, okay, this time I'm moving to IRCAM and studying jazz physics and jazz mathematics and jazz neurophysiology. Why jazz is so. What happened when you want to improvise, and what happened in your brain, and why some sounds are better to listen to than others, and that's maybe we come back to that.
So thanks. This has been great. Thanks. So we're going to take a short break, and then when we're going to come back, we'll hear more about Christophe outside of the lab.
Hey folks, don't run away. You're listening to The Lonely Pipette with Renaud and Jonathan Weissman. where our goal is to help scientists do better science.
If you're enjoying the show and you want to learn more, you can follow us on Twitter at Lonely Pipette, and please share the podcast with your friends.
If you don't want to miss any of our future episodes, you can subscribe to our mailing list and join our community. Click on the subscription link on our Twitter account.
It's as simple as that. Take a few moments to get more tips from the Lonely Pipette. Welcome back. You're listening to the Lonely Pipette, and we're getting tips from Christophe Lavelle. So, Christophe, you have this busy schizophrenic existence. What does the morning routine look like? What happened? How does the day start for Christophe?
Very basic, I would say. I'm not original at all. Usually the morning starting quite late because I'm more a night person than a morning person. So usually I'm working until 1 or 2 in the morning, and then it means I don't wake up before 8 or 9. So at a time where most of people are already awakened since sometimes since hours. So wake up quite gently, just take a coffee, and that's it. And then when I say that's it, it's very, very classical stuff, which means open my computer and check for my emails, and like everyone does almost, and nothing original for this. Usually when I have something quite complicated to do, like writing an article or something, when I need to be quite concentrated, it's always at night. It might be even after dinner, when really the house is calm, the kids are not sleeping because they're quite old now, so they're playing with their phone in their bed, and I would say, and then serious things can start. So usually the day there is lots of agitation. You have email, meetings, courses, conference, and it's going in all direction. It's very, very. My days are. That's stupid to say that, but it's quite busy. But everyone is busy, and but I would say probably too busy, and lots of agitation, lots of things. And then when after you come back home, sometimes late, you have this dinner, and then you have this moment when you can really read a book, read an articles, write stuff, and then it goes on for another day.
So in the first half, you told us your very scientific approach to cooking. So, but do you cook at home? And is there some? What's your special? What's your specialty?
Yes, every time. I mean, I'm responsible for lunch and dinner at home, and because I love that. So there is no reason to have my wife cooking, because I love to cook every day. I say this because usually you have these gender issues saying that women are cooking at home and men just do it when it is quite prestigious for the weekend, for the friend, and for the restaurant, all professional men. So you have this idea, and unfortunately true, this is not an idea, but from a sociological point of view, this is true that women are more often concerned by cooking at home, and men just cook when it is big restaurants and good job opportunities, something like that. And the fact is, I'm lucky I really love cooking in every situation, every kind of situation, and this is never something that bother me. So and I like also when I say cooking is also doing the washing the dish, and it's also going shopping for the food, and it's everything connected to the fact that we have to eat, and my kids have to eat, and the family have to eat. That I'm really happy to do this. This is a moment.
I do all the cooking at home. I do, apart from making bread. My wife makes bread, but all the rest is me.
Bread is something special.
So bread, yeah. So what's your specialty?
I'm not sure I have any kind of specialty, because usually when I have a specialty or something I'm doing quite well, then I stop to do it because I want to discover a new specialty. And I have a file in which I try to to note all the different dishes I used to do, because I want to have them in my mind, but sometimes I need some to refresh my mind. So
Is
I
it
have
being so invested in food preparation? Do you enjoy eating as much or more
Yes.
or less? Because I have a friend who was a musician. She hated going to concerts because all she heard was all the mistakes. So
Yes,
are you very critical? I know I've been for lunch with you, and I know you take a picture every day of what you eat. Yeah.
I understand. Yeah, I take picture is much more for just have a database of dish, and then it give me ideas, or I can share with my students and say, oh, look what I ate last time in the restaurant. I think this is interesting. Could you think about it? And okay, that's. But that's true. That's I have to say that this is a kind of remark I often have after my conference. Some people are saying, "Oh, you know so many things about food. Probably this is a problem for you when you go to the restaurant or things like that." And yes and no, I would say this is not a problem, because even, of course, very simple food you can really enjoy. Very simple food, like we can enjoy very sophisticated food. The only thing is, when I'm quite critical at, in fact, some chef, I don't know how to say this from a politically correct point of view, and when this is obvious for me that there is no work in the plate, which means there is something quite lazy, I hate that. Indeed, I hate that, because it can be simple food, it can be sophisticated food. There is no problem with that. And usually, you pay the price. That's no problem. When I have something, I said this is a lazy plate, because just with a little more idea, little more work, little more. You should do something much more interesting.
What is something about yourself that people would be surprised to discover, except this the one thing you just told us?
Surprised to discover? I don't know. Well, people who know me very well know that I am quite maniac, because I love things to be done the right way.
Does it come from science or cooking?
Both. Both. And both, because there is something we say in French, with ce qui mérite d'être fait mérite d'être bien fait, which means what has to be done has to be well done.
Mm-hmm.
And that's mine. That means if there is one sentence I could write on my wall, that is it. I mean, if you do something, do it well. Otherwise, just don't do it. And,
Love it.
and it might be, I am so extreme in this view that it might be sometimes complicated for people around me, because I said, why do you do that? This is not well done. They said, that's not a problem. Yes, it is a problem, because it's not well done. And that's the same. So that's the same in the lab. When I have students doing an experiment, if I feel that myself I would have done better, I'm quite hungry. I said, you are the students, I'm not supposed to do. I mean, of course, you could think the other way around. I said, oh, you're the teacher, you're supposed to do better. But that's not my point of view. My point of view is the students should do better than me. Otherwise, I should rather do it myself. And that's the same in the kitchen, of course. And when you do something, and then I love this time when. Because my students in the kitchen, most of my students are indeed cooking teachers. So I'm teaching the teachers. So usually there are people who know how to cook, but the Education Nationale asked me to teach them a better understanding of the way they do, the way they cook, and about taste and about things like that. And what I love is with these students is usually they are better cooks than me. And so I can really tell them to do this, and I know they will do it better than me. So we say, well, why do you teach them? But I'm not teaching them the technical issue. I'm teaching them, for instance, they are doing a perfect mayonnaise or things like that. But the fact is, they don't understand why this is perfectly done. They just do it because they used to do it for 10 years. And I just here to explain what are the right parameters, and potentially, if then they have students who is failing in doing this, then they will know why, because they know exactly what is important. But they do it well, and I think that this almost I don't know, I don't say the right word.
It's not only an expertise of the outcome, but also the causal effects. How can you grab these original parameters that leads to the outcome, so they could then also help and teach other people.
At the same time, they could more easily explain to people who fail why they fail, but also they could do even better themselves and maybe understand something that they are able to do something good, but then by understanding they make it even better. And that's always what I have in mind is if you do something, do it good and do it well, and potentially keep going to do it better. And in science, like in cooking, like in music, I like in everything. And that's really the state of mind.
Do you have an habit in the last 5 years that most improved your life? Something that came?
Unfortunately not. And I would dream to. I would dream to find nice habits that will make my life better. And every time, for instance, like everyone, or nightmare, finding the time, finding things like that, and sometimes I'm just lying at my desk and said I should find a trick to better organize my schedule. And since 20 years, I'm sitting on my desk saying I should find a trick to better organize my schedule, and I did not find it yet. And so I would dream to talk to you next year and say, I found it.
Do you get more wow in the kitchen or more wow in the lab?
Well, both, but this is not the same wow. And because when you have wow in the lab, it's because you understand something. Wow, at least I understand something. When it says wow in the kitchen, it's because you don't understand. That's exactly the opposit. And you
like
have this
that.
stuff.
That's great.
Yeah, you have this stuff you eat. Is wow. How do they do it? And then to come back to the question you had before, at the time you understand how they do that. There is two options, like in magic. If you know the trick, there is two options. Either it goes down, it's just this. Okay, it's quite disappointing. This is a trick. Or it goes even better. I say, wow, what a fantastic trick. And that's exactly what Gérard Majax says. This is one of the most famous French magicians. And he say, when you do some magic in front of people, he say something like, I don't exactly remember the word, but he said, imagine if there is no trick, this is magic. But if there is a trick, this is even more magic. And just basically saying, the skills might be so...
Is it not also one of the purpose of art and science to trigger this wow, not in a way that you understand and say wow, it's lower wow, but it's just like you visualize something, you're wow, and then you understand it and you are even more wow.
Yeah, probably there is a cognition effect, and of course when you understand something, this is quite self-satisfactory. This is something you're proud because I understand this, and of course you are usually quite happy when you understand something. It's quite natural.
So you've made these contributions in so many different fields. What is an achievement that you're particularly proud of?
Oh, that's also a tricky question. Let's say maybe it's not a personal achievement as a particular experiment or a particular result or thing like that. It might be more because I'm working in many fields, as you said. There is a drawback and an advantage. The drawback is when you work in too many fields at the same time, you cannot be a real expert in all of the field where you are working in. And you have to admit this. There is no problem. You have to be at ease with that. You said, okay, I'm running 20 projects in 20 different disciplines, so I'm not really good in any kind of this project and in any kind of these disciplines. But at the same time, it enables you to achieve something that other people don't achieve when they are just focused on the subject, is to make connection. And to make connection mean connection in your research. But also, and I come to your question, make connection between peoples. And if I would say some good achievement, I can quote is mostly being able to build projects, making the right connection between different peoples, And then the people are responsible for the research and the nice results, and I'm really happy when 5 years after or 10 years after someone is telling me, oh, this project, this publication, it's just because I talked to you, and then you told me to talk to this guy, and then it was really marvelous collaboration, and thanks to that. So I'm not responsible for everything in the research, but just responsible for making a good connection with good people and good knowledge, and sometimes just by talking, I said, oh, about about this, about epigenetics, but you also know about mayonnaise, and I think about maybe should do something,
So that's a super message you're giving us, because I really believe that a lot of people are struggling about not being an expert in one field, and being at this interface. So,
and then, how have you dealt with the failures or these échecs in your career?
Well, it depends when what you consider as a failure. So it can be just an experiment that failed, and then usually there is nothing very original than just trying again and trying differently, of course. Otherwise, but in a career, I don't know. Because if I had to do it again, I will probably do it the same, because basically in my everyday life, I'm just doing what I want to do. And that's why I struggle to do this research career, and that's why I struggle to be hired in the CNRS and be able to have this freedom of working on every kind of subject I want to work with, the people I want to work with. And so probably, of course, you have some projects running well, some projects just stand by, and probably you end up by abandoning them. And yes, in that sense, it's always frustrating when you start something and it doesn't really, nothing special happen, and then at the end, gently and little by little, you just abandon the subject, and probably there is some frustration saying, if I had more time or more people, and I would do more. So if I had to at least to mention one thing I would like to change is, in fact, being able to have more people working with me on this kind of subject, which means I have many people asking for collaboration, saying, I would like to work on that subject with you, it would be nice. And most of the time, I can't answer. I cannot. I have no time. I have no people to work on this. And this is a nice subject, but sorry, I know that I don't have the task force for this. And that indeed is quite frustrating. And probably, if I could do it again, I would be more cautious to be able to assemble a bigger team. I would say more people working independently, as I said, but at least working on this all of this subject I would like to work on. And but that's, for this you have to also spend a lot of energy to recruit people, and the fact is I do not spend that much energy for that.
So you can't do it again, but if you were to meet yourself 20 years ago, so the Christophe at the beginning of his career, what advice would you give yourself?
I would, as I said, I think the biggest issue in my everyday life is to master the time and to master my schedule. So if I could come back 20 years ago, I would probably, knowing this, I said, I don't want to do it again the same way. And I would try to be much more cautious right from the beginning to really keep, 3 times free, being able to spend time doing nothing, which means, and I think this is very important. And although I know this is very important, I don't do it because I'm not strong enough for it. Each time I'm trying to say, okay, in June, this week, it will be a free week. That's good. I don't know what I will do. Probably I'll go in the mountain to do some trek or things like that. And each time it's a total failure. Each time when I come closer and closer to this magic weeks, I have to finish this book. I cannot do it. I have to finish this. My editor is just becoming crazy and things like that. And so that's total failure. So I would really, and I think it's too late. I mean, I hope not, but I fear it's a little too late because I have this very, very bad habit that is now in me. And probably, you always learn more easily when you are young. And I would say maybe at 20, we try to get good habits. But at 45, it's becoming harder and harder to change your habits. And so probably that's what I will try to change. I said, Christophe, be careful. Just, be cautious to keep a lot of free times in your diary, because this is very important just for your everyday life. Because it's just a nightmare being always forced to run everywhere every time, and no one is forcing you. That's why it's crazy. No one is telling me you have to do that. It's just me. And so it's just
we'll tell your lab to do that, so they will force you to take a vacation. We are arriving to the end of this podcast, so it's time for us to wrap up. Where can people find out more about you and your work?
For the works, basically it's within the books is a good example of what we are doing, the chef, cooking, and for the scientific part, we have the website of the lab, in which I have the list, a very classical list of publication, and that's it. I would say very nothing original, and giving a lot of lecture. But
have you ever thought of opening a restaurant? Is that what on your bucket list?
That's a good question, but no, I don't want to open a restaurant, and for a very simple reason is that there is something much too repetitive for me in a restaurant. And when you are doing, when I'm cooking at home, it's repetitive, but it's the kind of thing I'm doing while listening to music and talking to my kids, and that's something you do because you like to do it. And even if you do the same dish 10 times, it's not a problem. But for the restaurant, this is a professional activity, and I know I will really not enjoy, doing the same meal every night for the customers.
You will need to create one restaurant each week.
I will need to create one restaurant or change the menu every time, which is lots of work. And so no, I don't want to I know that I will never open a restaurant, but I had the opportunity and the very comfortable opportunities to work in a restaurant, to serve customers in real condition, I would say, but for one night or 2 nights. What I will do this summer, indeed, during 1 week in Arles, we will cook and serve customers, but just during 1 week special event, and with a friend of mine who is like me, with more an artist, and I know we will enjoy, because this is 1 week, and that's fine. But then 1 week is enough.
So, is there anything else you would like to add to close this podcast?
For me, the most important thing is just to enjoy what you are doing, and I would say usually, if you enjoy, you do it well. Usually, not always.
Thanks, Christophe. This has been great, and thanks for sharing this your schizophrenic approach to interdisciplinary activities, and I look forward one day to cooking with you.
Yes, for sure. I would love to. We will do it. We will organize this, and with Renaud's father, we have to.
He tried to taught me all my life, but he never succeeded.
It's not too late.
But let's try it.
Now you're telling me it's just molecular biology.
So that's it for this episode. Thank you for joining us at The Lonely Pipette.
We hope that you learned something new, that something resonated with your own experiences, or that you just enjoyed the science.
Let us know your thoughts on Twitter at Lonely Pipette, and please share it with your friends in the lab. If you want to join our community, you can subscribe to the Lonely Pipette mailing list or mail us by following the link available on our Twitter profile. You will receive the next episodes directly in your mailbox. How cool is that?
Stay tuned for the next show, and remember, you might feel like a lonely pipette, but it doesn't mean you're alone. Tips from the Lonely Pipette can help you to do better science.
À bientôt!
À bientôt!